Charles Millis Manson, born on November 12, 1934, was a career criminal and cult leader whose name became synonymous with the dark underbelly of the 1960s counterculture. From a tumultuous childhood marked by an absent mother and numerous stints in juvenile detention and prison, Manson spent more than half of his early life incarcerated. By the time he was released from prison in 1967, at the height of the Summer of Love, he was a charismatic and manipulative individual with an unquenchable desire for control and influence. Manson soon began to attract a following of disillusioned and impressionable young people, primarily women, who saw him as a guru, a messianic figure, or even Jesus Christ. They became known as the Manson family, a communal group that lived in various locations around California, most notably at the Spahn Ranch, a dilapidated former movie set outside Los Angeles. Manson exerted absolute domination over his followers, controlling their lives through a combination of drugs, especially LSD, bizarre philosophical teachings drawn from various sources, including Scientology, the occult and fringe psychology, sexual manipulation, and psychological abuse. He instilled in them an unquestioning loyalty and a distorted worldview, preparing them for a coming apocalypse. At the core of Manson's twisted ideology was his apocalyptic vision, which he termed helter-skelter. He derived this phrase from the Beatles' song of the same name from their 1968 White Album. Manson meticulously misinterpreted the lyrics of several Beatles songs, particularly Helter Skelter, Piggies, and Revolution 9, as coded messages predicting an imminent, violent race war between black and white people in the United States. Manson believed that this helter-skelter would be a global conflict where black people would rise up and violently overthrow the white establishment. However, he prophesied that black people, despite winning the war, would be unable to govern themselves and would eventually turn to him and the family for leadership. The family, he believed, would survive the chaos by hiding in a secret underground city, possibly beneath Death Valley. He frequently told his followers that they would emerge as the rightful rulers of the New World Order. As the summer of 1969 approached, Manson grew impatient, believing that helter-skelter was not igniting quickly enough. He concluded that the family needed to show the black people how to do it by committing a series of brutal murders that would be blamed on the black community. His aim was to escalate racial tensions and accelerate the coming apocalyptic war, ultimately solidifying his own position as a supreme leader. This delusional and dangerous prophecy became the chilling motive for the horrific crimes that were about to unfold. The first major act of violence orchestrated by Manson occurred on the night of August 8th to 9th, 1969. Manson ordered 4 of his most devoted followers, Charles Tex Watson, Susan Atkins, Patricia Krenwinkel, and Linda Kasabian, who later became a key witness for the prosecution, to go to 10050 Cielo Drive in Los Angeles. This was the rented home of actress Sharon Tate, wife of film director Roman Polanski, who was away in London at the time. Manson was familiar with the house because its previous tenant was music producer Terry Melcher, whom Manson harbored a grudge against after Melcher had declined to sign Manson to a record deal. Manson instructed his followers to kill everyone inside the house and make it as gruesome as you can. They cut the telephone wires to the property. Their first victim was 18-year-old Stephen Parent, who was leaving after visiting the caretaker and was shot by Watson. Inside the house, they brutally murdered Sharon Tate, who was 8.5 months pregnant, along with her guest Jay Sebring, a celebrity hairstylist, Wojciech Frykowski, and Abigail Folger, heiress to the Folgers coffee fortune. The victims were stabbed repeatedly, and Tate reportedly pleaded for the life of her unborn child before being stabbed 16 times. Susan Atkins used Tate's blood to scrawl the word pig on the front door. The scene was one of unimaginable savagery, designed to be a shocking statement that would ignite the race war Manson so desperately wanted. The very next night, August 10th, 1969, Manson, dissatisfied with the perceived lack of impact from the Tate murders, decided to actively participate in leading another killing spree. He drove Tex Watson, Patricia Krenwinkel, Leslie Van Houten, Susan Atkins, and Steve Clem drove into the Los Feliz home of Leno and Rosemary LaBianca, a wealthy couple who own a chain of grocery stores. The LaBiancas had no connection to the previous night's victims or to Manson himself. Their house was simply chosen at random. Manson entered the house with Watson, tied up the couple, and then left, instructing Watson, Krenwinkel, and Van Houten to kill them. The LaBiancas were then brutally murdered. Leno LaBianca was stabbed 12 times and had the word war carved into his stomach. Rosemary LaBianca was stabbed numerous times. The killers also used the victim's blood to write Helter Skelter, misspelling Helter Skelter, on the refrigerator and Rise, and Death to Pigs on other walls. A fork and a carving knife were left protruding from Leno LaBianca's body. These killings were even more personal and prolonged than the Tate murders, further escalating the level of terror and bewilderment in Los Angeles. The seemingly random nature of the attacks, combined with the bizarre messages left at the crime scenes, baffled investigators. Initially, police did not connect the two sets of murders. The city was in a state of panic, with residents fearing they could be the next target of an unknown, seemingly motiveless killer. The Manson family's reign of terror eventually came to an end due to internal dissension and a series of seemingly unrelated arrests. Key members, including Susan Atkins, began to brag about their involvement in the murders while incarcerated for other charges. This led investigators, particularly prosecutor Vincent Bugliosi, to piece together the horrifying truth. Charles Manson had masterminded the killings, directing his loyal followers to commit unspeakable acts of violence. Manson and several of his followers, Susan Atkins, Patricia Krenwinkel, Leslie Van Houten, and Tex Watson, were indicted for the Tate LaBianca murders and other related killings. The trial, which began in June 1970, was a sensational spectacle. Manson's erratic behavior, his wild pronouncements, and the unsettling loyalty of his family members captivated and horrified the nation. Linda Kasabian, one of the participants in the Tate murders, was granted immunity and became a crucial witness for the prosecution, providing chilling first-hand accounts of the events. On January 25, 1971, Charles Manson and his 3 female co-defendants were found guilty of first-degree murder and conspiracy to commit murder. Tex Watson was tried separately and also convicted. All were initially sentenced to death. However, in 1972, California temporarily abolished the death penalty, and their sentences were commuted to life imprisonment. Charles Manson spent the rest of his life in prison, becoming a symbol of ultimate evil and a morbid fascination for many. He was repeatedly denied parole and died in prison on November 19, 2017, at the age of 83. The legacy of Charles Manson and the Manson family murders remains a chilling testament to the power of cultic influence, the depths of human depravity, and the dark currents that can flow beneath the surface of seemingly peaceful times. The murders continue to haunt Los Angeles and serve as a stark reminder of the cult of madness he unleashed.